The rain in Hollow Street has a way of washing away more than just the grime from the cobblestones. It washes away memories, people, secrets. For weeks, the disappearances have been the town's grim, unspoken obsession. First, old Mr. Abernathy, who swore he saw faces in the gnarled oak by the cemetery. Then little Lily, who chased her red ball down Miller's Lane and never came back. One by one, they vanished, leaving behind nothing but empty homes and the lingering scent of ozone after a storm. The official story? They left town, moved on, but we knew better. In a place like Hollow Street, no one ever really leaves. They just get lost. The disappearances became a part of our daily routine. We'd check on our neighbors, lock our doors a little tighter, and avoid the darker parts of town after sunset. The police put up posters that faded and peeled in the constant drizzle, their smiling faces becoming ghostly blurs. The town held a vigil, little candles flickering like fragile hopes against an overwhelming darkness. But hope is a difficult thing to hold on to here. Hollow Street has a long memory and it doesn't like to be disturbed. We all felt it, a cold dread that clung to us like the damp air. We were living on borrowed time, waiting for the next person to be swallowed by the silence. Then came the storm. Not just any storm, but a real monster. The kind that rattles the very foundations of your house and makes you question your faith. The sky turned a bruised purple, and the wind howled like a tortured soul. Rain came down in sheets, turning the streets into murky rivers. That's when it started. A new sound carried on the wind, bubbling up from the ground beneath our feet. A sound that was far more terrifying than any thunderclap. It came from the storm drains. At first, it was just a whisper, a faint murmur lost in the roar of the downpour. You catch a fragment of it, think you were imagining things, and shake your head, but it grew louder, more distinct. It was voices, plural, a chorus of desperate pleading whispers rising from the iron grates that lined every curb. They echoed from the labyrinth of tunnels that run beneath Hollow Street like a dark, forgotten circulatory system. The town's hidden veins. I remember standing by my window, the glass cold against my forehead, watching the water swirl into the drain at the end of my driveway. And I heard it. A voice clear as day, cutting through the storm. "Don't listen," it whispered. The voice was familiar, chillingly familiar. It was Mr. Abernathy. His voice, once gruff and hearty, was now a thready, ethereal plea. My blood ran cold. I pulled back from the window, my heart hammering against my ribs. It had to be the wind, a trick of the acoustics, my mind playing games. It had to be. But it wasn't just me. All over town, people were hearing them. Mrs. Gable next door, her face pale as a sheet, called me in a panic. She'd heard her nephew Mark, who vanished last spring. He was begging her to cover her ears, to go inside and lock the doors. The voices were a cacophony of the lost. Little Lily's innocent whimper, pleading, "Don't come looking for me. It's a trap." The college student, Tom, his voice strained with terror. "It's not what you think. It wants you to listen." It was a symphony of warnings from beyond the veil, a desperate message from those the town had tried to forget. The missing weren't calling for help. They weren't crying out to be saved. They were warning us. They were begging us to ignore the other sound. Because beneath their desperate pleas, there was something else. A melody. Faint, but beautiful. An enchanting, hypnotic tune that seemed to promise everything you've ever wanted. It promised warmth on a cold night, a reunion with a lost love, an answer to every question you've ever had. It was a siren song, bubbling up from the depths, using the voices of our loved ones as its bait. The town became divided. Some, driven by grief and a desperate sliver of hope, were drawn to the grates. They'd kneel in the pouring rain, straining to hear, convinced that if they just listened hard enough, they could understand, maybe even bring their loved ones back. They were tempted by the sweet melody that promised an end to their pain. They ignored the frantic warnings, dismissing them as echoes, as tricks of the storm. "He's calling to me," a woman cried, her hands pressed against a cold iron grate. "My boy is calling me home." But the rest of us, we heard the terror in those familiar voices. We understood the truth. They weren't calling us home. They were trying to keep us away from theirs. A home of darkness and echoing pipes where a beautiful, deadly song lured you into its embrace. We boarded up our windows, stuffed towels under our doors, anything to block out the sound. We huddled in our homes. The warnings of the dead are only shield against the melody of the damned. The storm raged on, and the battle for our souls was being fought in the whispers from the storm drains. The echoes of the lost were our last line of defense. They were begging us, their voices raw with desperation. Don't listen. Please, don't listen. The beautiful song grew louder, more insistent, and we knew, with a certainty that chilled us to the bone, that it wouldn't stop until it had what it wanted. Us. All of us. The storm lasted for 3 days. 3 days of an unrelenting psychological war. The melody wove itself into our dreams, showing us visions of joyful reunions, of sunlight and laughter. It was a constant, seductive pressure against the walls of our minds. But layered over it, always were the desperate cries of the vanished. It lies. It's all a lie. Mr. Abernathy's voice cracking with phantom tears. Run! Stay away from the water! Mark Gable's frantic shout. The warnings became our mantra, a prayer we repeated to ourselves to keep the insidious music at bay. On the 4th morning, the rain stopped. A heavy, unnatural silence fell over Hollow Street. The sun, weak and watery, broke through the clouds. People slowly, cautiously emerged from their homes. The streets were littered with debris, but the water had receded, and the voices, they were gone. The storm drains were silent once more, but we noticed something else. More empty houses. More drawn curtains on windows that used to be full of life. The ones who had knelt by the grates, the ones who chose to listen to the song instead of the warning. They were gone. They hadn't been washed away. They had answered the call. Now, a new kind of quiet hangs over this town. It's not the quiet of peace, but the quiet of absence. We walk the streets and we don't look at the storm drains. We don't talk about the storm, or the voices, or the song, but we hear it. In the back of our minds, a faint, lingering trace of that beautiful, terrible melody. And sometimes, when the wind is just right, you can almost hear a whisper from the ground beneath your feet. A final, fading echo. Don't listen. We know now. We know what lurks in the darkness beneath Hollow Street. And we know that the next time it rains, the song will be back, and it will be hungrier. Thanks for watching. If you want to uncover more of Hollow Street's secrets, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Stay safe out there.